if I bring up the old lab, the old book.
I've got the old book and the new book.
Yeah. Oh, wait, as I said to these guys, Ryan, I'm not going to share the screen. I will just talk us through the book, and then you'll just refer to it on your thing, so it's less stream thinging.
Stream thinging,
lag or whatever.
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Hello, everybody. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Ninth Age fans, and hello, all the lovely ladies. Right?
Absolutely.
Oodles
the priority.
Oodles of ladies, and all the lovely men, of course, and
Yes.
all the lovely everythings.
And Tommy.
And Tommy. This is a separate category. I am Lucky Sixes. This is PTG. I'm joined, as always, by Hyper G.
Hello, I'm here. I am 1/4 of the show today.
Yes, and as you can see on the screen, we don't have our cameras up. We do have our icons. I don't know.
Avatars.
Avatars. That's better. And correcting me quite aptly is Gobbo. PTG Gobbo. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Excited for this.
A little bit.
Yeah, you're chomping at the bit. We've had it for all of an hour, and for that whole hour,
There was no harnessed rule that could contain Gobbo.
It's just a high-pitched squeaking from the oval area.
And of course, joining us on not only any other day, but his birthday is Skabfatt himself.
It was hello. It was so kind of the Ninth Age team to release this basically on my birthday. It was the best birthday present a goblin could ask for.
As can be seen by your avatar, you have brought the birthday hat and balloons with you.
Yes, Skabfatt is known for wearing multiple pieces of headwear, and the pink sparkly birthday hat was his second crown of choice today.
It was, yeah. Perhaps one to stay, but we'll see.
Yes,
as well. But yes, we're here to talk about the Orcs and Goblins LAB being released in a few days. So this is your sneak preview. We're going to go through it all. And we're going to go see if we can be fairly skimmy, but we'll go into this will take 10 minutes, and then an hour and 40 minutes later we'll still be talking. So we'll see I'm not going to promise anything this time. But we are joined not only by Goblin enthusiasts, and Hobgoblin enthusiasts in terms of Gobbo.
Oh, what's an opening shot? You're anchoring him before we even start.
But playtesters, is that right?
Yes. Got ourselves shiny new tags, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, it's been quite interesting to be on the playtesting team, and
on the Goblin playtesting team, not the Hobgoblin playtesting team.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting to see how everything's kind of developed from Slim through PT to Lab. Yeah, lots of ideas, and it's nice to see where the ideas started from, went to, which ones stuck, which ones changed out. Yeah, really good.
Cool, and yeah, we're excited to get your input from that point of view as well. So I think I'll just be the chairperson, moving us on, and you guys will do all the talking. That's what I'm thinking.
You mean you're not an expert in Orcs and Goblins? Is that what you're saying?
I'm an expert in everything, mate. So I'll leave it to.
Of course.
I'll leave it to Chubbs to speculate.
Okay. Oh, he's really violent tonight.
Yeah, but I don't know what it is. Perhaps it's without the cameras, but it's like this keyboard warrior type thing, right?
You must have had a starburst or something.
Yeah, I did. Well, it's a Fanta actually, but I'll carry on. Other drinks are available. Moving on though.
That answers everything. Have we lost you, Tom?
No, I'm back. Yeah. So I just did a break just because I did lose you for a bit. But we'll carry on.
Okay.
But moving on, we go on to the Orcs and Goblins book, specifically the army-specific rules. The war cry, fairly similar to last time, only there's a little extra been put in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So well, yeah, war cry used to be very, very easy. It was plus like faster models and maximized charges, wasn't it?
And the only difference now is if you've got a goblin or an orc. Orc general.
Yeah, it's. I think this is a sign of things to come, because the orcs kept the maximized charges, but the goblins got a bit of a note. Like, so goblins don't like being in a fight, right? That's kind of their whole thing.
So
a fight that they've not intended to get in.
Precisely, if it's not part of the plan. So interestingly, now goblins, the Goblin war cry gives all goblin-esque troops light troops, and they lose scoring.
Scatter.
It is literally just like this whole big blocks just scattering all. It's brilliant.
So the idea that you can have your like goblin infantry who'd be souped up to like movement 10, like 10-inch marches, just firing off 10 inches laterally. Or cavalry units with going up to like 18 odd inches suddenly repositioning behind enemy lines.
And I think that's exactly it. I think it's giving those blocky type lists that chance to have a bit of lateral movement and stuff like that. So I like it. I like it a lot.
I think it's really clever. I think, Ryan, you probably were in the same boat as me. The whole loose scoring bit kind of had us worried, because we kind of went,
don't do it to 6.
Does that not screw us on quite a few of the objectives? But the people who are more intelligent than us have said that you would regain scoring before checking to see if you have like hold the center units in the middle. So apparently you do get that back. Like goblins just don't just automatically lose.
Okay, cool. So is that secondary just for the movement phase then?
Well, so apparently the checks to see whether things are scoring would happen after this rule finishes.
Cool.
As I understand it,
Apply the following effects until the end of the player turn. So
basically,
at the end of the turn, they get scoring back.
Fair enough.
Which is when
if you have the 3 pennies and you have one, do you drop it instantly the moment you lose scoring?
Arguably, you would. I suppose that's because
it would have directly affected.
I suppose the idea of having 60 odd goblins suddenly just breakneck sprinting to the left.
Drop it and run. Let's go, boys. Okay.
Worth saying about the maximized charge thing. It used to actually be swift stride, which is a bit different than maximized charge.
Can be
because
stepped.
obviously, and swift stride applied to overruns and running away.
Right.
Whereas
just charging.
Maximized charge is a bit different, so it is slightly worse in that regard, but I don't think it's a problem because it's still
that's what
pretty cool.
For, wasn't it?
There's synergy things that make it still better. So
I think I hear the sound of 1,000 ball hooves on the horizon.
Exactly.
But so a good start, I think. Moving on to the army model rules, we've got beloved mascots.
Love it.
Gain hatred against enemy units in base contact with one or more friendly models with beloved mascots. So basically, it's for the mirror match, right?
No. Only an unversed Orc and Goblin person would think that. Once you read it and you understand Orcs and Goblins, you're like, this is cool. Basically, you just throw a unit with beloved mascots into combat with something you're already fighting or going to fight as well, and your other unit gets hatred.
Oh, I see. So
it's like the old the bats rule for vampires, the minus offensive skill or whatever it is.
So very much encouraging multi-charges.
Yes, but
I'm chucking these guys in to die.
The units that have beloved mascots are
brilliant.
You'll see why I think Ryan and I both tried to get as many beloved mascots into our playtest list as we could, just because.
Cool. So we'll hold on to beloved mascots and we'll hold that.
Well, there's one unit in particular that you'd be quite surprised has beloved mascots.
The next one, Brood Alpha.
So that's cool.
I didn't read any of this bit.
So Brood Alpha. So the champions in Orc units are kind of similar to Warrior of the Dark God champions, where they're like super champions. They get +1 wound or hit point. They get +1 attack as normal. Discipline goes up. They gain a great weapon. You have a great weapon.
Cool.
But yeah, just
And you don't
I
see
guess
this too much as well, having like different weapons
Precisely.
within a unit. So I quite like that. It's a mini character, right?
yeah.
Yeah, he's
And
the important guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any orc with a great weapon, as we'll see later, is a scary thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cool.
I guess the idea is that all the orcs band around the biggest, scariest orc with the biggest club. So
yeah, I'd be really interested to see if this gets ever so slightly tweaked, because I think the extra health point needs a cap on it. Because I mean, it might be intentional, but the Iron Orc Chariot, which we'll get to, can have 5 HP instead of 4 by this rule.
Sure.
So I wonder if that'll get a cap to it, like the old Chosen Knights thing. But
that's
at the
fair.
moment, it gains a +1 HP for every champion, which is kind of cool. So,
rules as written, don't we love it? Next
Indeed.
one, Brood Rivalry.
this is huge. This is huge. This rule made me pull out my orc army.
Well, that's crazy.
Oh, blooming time.
That's crazy. So model parts with harness gain +1 attack value while both of these conditions are met. The model unit contains one or more rank and file models, so not unit characters. And a model with Brood Rivalry from another friendly unit is engaged in combat anywhere on the battlefield. Not in the same, anywhere. And that's something that comes up a few times, actually, is that if something is engaged on the battlefield elsewhere, other things get buffed. So there's this whole idea that orcs get into combat as soon as possible and those things get better.
So, the idea is that no orc wants to see another orc fighting while they're not fighting.
Yeah. So look out for units with Brood Rivalry later on as well. +1 attack basically if something else is in combat.
And other things that trick the orcs into thinking that something else is in combat.
Sure,
Because there's a little item.
Yes, I do.
That. We'll get to that.
Which is crazy if that's crazy.
It's so powerful. You said it was not characters, but technically it is on characters as well, providing they're in a unit.
Yes.
So
not
it's just not lone characters.
Or not a unit of just characters solely.
Yeah.
But
So when we look at the characters, bear in mind the Brood Rivalry characters all kind of have +1 attack if you get this right. So
awesome.
I mean, in the games we played during playtesting, I never not had +1 attack on all of my orc units.
Awesome.
Your orcs evaporated units of mine, didn't they?
Oh yes.
Next one, Creepy Crawlies, Ghost Step and
names.
Poison. Yeah.
Hooray! Ghost Step,
nice.
really, really good.
Fundamentally anything that was remotely spider-like in the old Slim is now a Creepy Crawlies.
Yeah, Ghost Step's a good rule, and I quite like that. It's coming back with a few things. Dharma. Someone will have to explain this one though, because it's quite expected.
So I mean, you can almost kind of skip ahead a little bit. So we've got Dharmu and Tribe Leader. So these are kind of upgrades for Goblin and Orc generals.
Yes.
So one of the ideas of the book was we kind of want 3 books in one. We want Orcs and Goblins, we want Orcs, and we want Goblins. And the idea is any of those 3 could be played reasonably well. Dharmu deletes the Orc bit.
And apart from 10%.
10%, yes. And then the Tribe Leader kind of deletes the Goblin bit. This is how you make a Goblin army. You make your General a Dharmu. You can only spend 450 points on Orcs. But loads of Goblin-y units get more.
You increase their 0 to X.
Yeah.
And
then
similar
Tribe Leader works
the other way around, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the subsidiaries, so for example, like trolls, giants, and things like that, they're specific as well. So for example, a giant counts as an orc.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you're having 10%, you can only fit a giant.
Yeah. So look out for the unit restriction, and then whether it has TL or D next to it, and then it has a higher cap. That's cool.
That's it.
Goblin Cunning. Obviously, one for us for sure. Yeah. Apply the following rules to any unit existing entirely of models with Goblin Cunning. Maximize Flee, and it can choose to fail a break test.
Yeah.
Or panic.
Or panic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless it's
panic break tests. So you know how they're looking at different armies and trying to figure out alternate ways of doing leadership.
Yeah.
I think it's super appropriate that goblins can choose to run away.
Yeah, and if they do, they automatically rally without
Yes.
It's not they're not running; they're tactically retreating.
Tactically retreating. So very cool, very cool.
But you can imagine the sheer level of shenanigans.
Yeah, there's going to be some. Oh,
Which
goodness.
combined with Warcry as well is quite cool.
Yeah, right. They just, they as Hybrid said, they just scatter. They just see it later.
Out to the wind.
Crude weapons, or the attack attributes, basically.
Tribe leader first, mate.
We've kind of done that with Damu, haven't we?
So, big one. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah.
So crude weapons in attack attributes. Is basically they have whatever weapon they have for one turn, and then they break. Is what I can see from it.
Yeah. We'll see where that comes in. So, who happens to have crude weapons?
Yes. So we'll talk about that a bit more on the unit entries. But it's after the first round of combat. It loses some rules, but yeah, we'll see. Force of Destruction, special attacks. This is referring to some random movement shenanigans.
So what used to be like a page for shambolic, run amok, like everything's to do with sort of like maggots,
ricochet, and all that.
The Wrecker teams. Now we have a paragraph.
and it is, and as well as the less text, it is a lot simpler. Basically, you ignore models, but once you've gone into it, it just disappears. There's no going through it and getting multiple. It also only gets one unit, from what I can tell.
Correct.
So once it gets that, it basically goes into the unit and explodes up there and there.
So it's very, very similar. Yeah, very similar to the Vermin Swarm, Rat Swarm.
Yes.
From the Hereditary now, where it's a one and done. Someone might need to correct me. Well, actually, no, it's been clarified now. If you sent a Mad Git into a combat before, you had to kind of split the hits between your units and their units. Now, if several units are touched simultaneously, the active player chooses which unit suffers the hits. And also, it doesn't specify anything about combat, so you can now tactically nuke an enemy unit in combat with, say, a wrecking team.
Yeah, as long as you would hit the other one, right? I guess.
Yeah. As long as you're not clipping your unit first.
Yeah.
But if you've got something in an enemy unit in the flank, you could then whammer.
But a lot simpler. We like it a lot.
Yes,
because it's a lot simpler and easy for everyone to understand.
It gives a lot of scope on the points changes as well for later on.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Hereditary spell. Moving on to that before we get into characters. Guile and Fury, and there's two parts to it. Same casting value, casting an 8, range 18. But basically, it's whether you're an orc or a goblin, you have a different. The spell affects you differently, which I like as well.
Yeah,
it's cool. The only gripe I have, which is a real silly thing, so forgive me immediately, is the way they've set it out with augment first and then hex. It should be Fury and Guile, not Guile and Fury. But you know,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
ignore me. Semantics.
One thing to note as well on these ones, it's not relevant just to tribe leader and Damu. So even if you have an Orc and Goblin army, you can then cast the other on each other.
Yeah.
It's
just who it's cast by. Yeah, exactly. That's
you could have your 450 point of Orc Shaman, basically. Goblin army, you know. So for orcs, for people listening, it gains +1 to hit and charge, flee, pursuit, and overrun, and increased by 1, which is sort of adds on to the Warcry.
Right?
So that's interesting. If you're a goblin, it's the target suffers -1 to hit, and it's augment versus hex, as I said. And its charge, range, flee, pursuit, overrun are reduced by 1. So it's like it's the opposite.
So it's like the evil. It's the witchcraft evil eye attribute plus -1 to hit.
Yeah,
which isn't to say you can't do it with witchcraft as well. So you know, double up.
But we quite like that though as a special rule. A hereditary.
I wonder if it should be a 9 plus to cast. Personally, I think it's a bit cheap.
Nah.
So shout me down. I think it's too good to be an 8. It's long term. personally.
Situational for Goblin only armies, isn't it?
Maybe. I think the +1 to hit, the -1 to hit are huge, just on their own.
Makes Rod of Battle all the more better as well. I think, because it's a double version of that. Very cool. Onto special items.
Pause there, Tom. Sorry, and just before you go on to special items, I just wanted to double, triple, quadruple check that you are recording.
I am recording, yes.
Nice, because we didn't actually go through that before we started, and I would hate to lose the whole thing if we didn't double check.
Yeah.
And I know you can just throw an edit in there to get rid of this bit. Cool, I'll let you carry on. I know, I trusted you.
Oh, I mean, the interruptions, yes, otherwise, but okay. Right.
I'll take it.
And on to special items, we move on to the weapon enchantments. Omen of the Apocalypse, +1 attack value, strength, and AP for each friendly unit other than its own that contains one or more models with brood rivalry that is engaged in combat anywhere on the battlefield. And that again goes to the anywhere on the battlefield. Initially, you're like 110 for that. It's quite a lot. But I think
it's disgusting. I think it's going to rip things apart.
Yeah. Then you realise actually what it does. And
it used to be more under the old book. It was like 125 and you got plus T3. And you always, let's be honest, you always rolled a 1 on the combat that mattered. And you rolled a 3 when you were taking out chaff. But I think, the Orc army looks like it's moving towards a MSU, MMU kind of style, which you want because you just want multiple orcs in combat all over the place. So
all the time,
readily saying, I've got a strength bajillion orc with loads of attacks and AP.
So otherwise, pretty much what it does before. Attack Nasher. This is cool.
Hands down, favorite item in the book.
Yeah, man. So when performing close combat attacks, other than crush, so don't use it on things with crush, the wielder must perform 3 additional close combat attacks, strength 5, AP 2 at the same initiative. I really like that. It's really cool.
It's interesting. The old Troll Owl Flask is gone, which was kind of a similar item in the old book. That was 30 points and was AP 10. This is 50 points and isn't AP 10. But I think this is more takeable because the other Troll Ale Flask was kind of like, I never really have enough points to spend on it, whereas this is worth taking to buff your already deadly characters. So
I mean, I've got this in my new list.
Same.
And because it, I think, ties in perfectly with the next item.
Well, and which we'll go on to, which is good. But I just as an aside, I really like the modelling thing of this. A lot of the weapon enchantments and stuff, could be anything, and I think this one gives a really visual thing for what you're putting onto your item. So I quite like that. But the next item specifically,
the Blackroot Vine Banner.
Sounds nasty already.
So it's a goblin only, basically, and it fundamentally turns your goblin unit into what used to be forest goblins from the Slim book. So they get Strider Forest, and they're close combat, non-harnessed attacks. So basically, the goblins rather than the mounts become poison. 65 points.
Pretty cool.
And obviously that includes the Attack Nasher. Right?
That would then include the Attack Nasher by my reading of it.
It's very interesting.
So it's an interesting thing. Forest goblins were my go-to core choice in the old book. They were expensive. Like everything added up real quick. Because you were paying sort of like 1 point to be a forest goblin, paying 2 odd points for having a poison spear. Rah, rah, rah. So now having a banner that's a flat 65, and that 65 whether your unit is 60 strong or 20 strong. That's scary.
Yeah,
scary.
Absolute steal.
For sure. I really like the next one as well. I think this is a really good item. The Head Basher's Trophy. Roll a d3 at the start of combat, and you either get Distracting Lethal Strike or even Right Reflexes. I think that's brilliant.
For 50 points, it's an absolute steal.
I like so good every round as well. It's not like just for use once only. I think it's fantastic.
I like that it isn't linked to just orcs as well. Like technically, you can have this on goblins, which is funny.
Yeah. It does say you can't take it by Iron Orcs, which is
it's just a bit harsh.
Yeah, the only thing.
So
just
are
remember this banner later when we talk about other units.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, there's 3 units that can take that that aren't Iron Orcs. So
Of course, okay, because it can't be in core.
Has to be special only. Yeah.
I
yes.
see. Yeah. So are they goblins? You're right. Are you saying basically there aren't goblins who can take it then? Because they're all in core?
There are spoilers.
Okay, right, we'll get there. Fair enough.
Yeah. So remember this for later, which is a lot of stuff which I quite like. That shows already there's a lot of synergy. And speaking of synergy, the next item, which it doesn't seem like a lot, and you think on its own is fine, but is probably the most auto-include thing for the whole book. Totem of the Only Cling. For the purpose of Brood Rivalry, the Bearer's unit is always treated as if a model with Brood Rivalry from another friendly unit is engaged anywhere on the battlefield. A phrase that we've mentioned a few times already.
This is, I'll take your crown of the Craven King and I'll raise you a Totem of the Only King. Because the Craven King's gone. But this is, this is a different level, really.
Take this while you can, boys and girls.
Can I have +1 attack on all my orcs for 40 points?
40 points.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. I'll see you later.
Just enjoy it for now. You know, we won't talk about it and whether it's maybe slightly overpowered or anything like that. We'll just just enjoy, folks. Take it.
2 weeks.
And just enjoy, yeah. Right, swiftly moving on because well done. Tazrek's Guard arm enchantment. 75
I love
points.
this one. Love it.
+1 health and resilience set to 6.
Yeah, it kind of replaces the old Tuktek's Guard, which used to be immune to lethal strikes and +1 resilience. This is changing it to, well, it's 20 points more expensive, but it is now a flat resilience 6, which is cool because
chuck it on a goblin.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and
have an excuse to roll out a really podgy Orc King.
Yeah. I mean, you can't put it on a wyvern anymore because it used to be large and now it's standard. But,
I actually probably think this could go down a little bit. 75 points seems a bit much, but then again, for some of the things that you could put it on, I guess.
On an orc, it's scary. Like you can go up to like a boar-esque, like a cavalry mounted orc.
Yeah.
But because like the orcs are usually rolling in with armor anyway, but like on a goblin, you're probably floating around a 4-up save, maybe a 3-up if you enchant the shield. But yeah, you're relying on that resilience rather than.
Agreed. Yeah, I quite like resilience 6 as a thing, and any extra health is nice. So you're just a beast. Skull Fetish artifacts. Whenever a friendly unit with at least one model with Goblin Cunning passes a rally test, add a Veil token. Whenever a friendly unit with at least one model with Brood Rivalry successfully completes a charge, add a Veil token. I like it. I mean, that's so many Veil tokens, considering what the book's pushing you towards. Well, there's so many Veil tokens. Oh my goodness, there's no cap.
Yeah, it's lovely.
And presumably, the Goblin Cunning passes a rally check. Does that?
Yeah, I just have to check it. So you automatically pass it. So arguably, every time you have a Goblin unit auto flee, like voluntarily flee, as long as they don't get caught, which is unlikely because they're maximized, and you probably hit them with a -1 to chase.
Yeah.
So you just get a free Veil token.
Just scatter, guys. And I found this. Oh, thanks very much.
That single orc shaman, he's casting with loads of Veil tokens.
I get the confusion just makes your magic better, I guess. Next one, Monster Munch.
Love it.
Great name. Like,
I'm so happy this is the name they landed on.
I must admit, they've improved already just on some of the names of these things. I really am. And not only is it a great name, it's a wonderful magic item. It's expensive for a bound spell, but it means you can 2 dice Totemic Summon.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so good. And the fact is, goblins can't get access to shamanism without an orc. So this gives them arguably the best spell in shamanism. Arguably.
Yeah.
Because
So,
some armies just have to get rid of that, and then you might be two or three dice down.
Stick it on a Thaumaturgy Wrath of God guy, and happy days. That's 2 auto spells that they've got to stop.
Yeah, it's the enemy backline sorted.
Yeah, see you later, line.
No, in my luck, I'd do that, and then the only thing that gets killed by the comet would be the totemic summon.
Yeah.
Or my goblin.
Or,
Well, we won't go back there.
Yeah, great name. Bound with bound. It's an expensive bound spell, but I think it's a good one.
Yeah, it has to be expensive. Any cheaper, and we'd be saying that's far too cheap.
Yeah, I think so. And Pana Protection Pinching. So I think this is similar to how it used to be.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same, apart from it's lost its magic resistance factor.
Right,
So
cool. So either take the armor or special save. Cool.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was really using it for the magic resistance before, anyway.
No, true.
Or remembering it, so they've just taken it away.
Then the last one on this page, Dominant 0-3. So use once only. Goga Brew.
I reckon Gobbo's got some sneaky plan for this already. I don't know if he's going to reveal it to us or not. Go on.
So you can take this on a BSB, for example, or onto a character, chuck him on a 40 beastie, and put him in with your trolls. Make your trolls fearless and basically, the trolls aren't going anywhere.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Fearless and unstable. Yeah, turn your goblins into undead, basically.
Yeah, very cool.
It's just insane. It's insane. Yeah. One thing to note, there's a lot of dominant in some of these items.
Yes.
Some of them can't be on the same model, but I don't think that's necessarily a problem with the price of some of these characters. So,
I mean, I'm still coming round to the Goga Brew. I haven't figured out how it gets used, because when would you want your goblins to not run away? I suppose if you've got a massive tar pit, but then arguably if you're going to lose combat by about 40 as goblins are wont to do, then the unit's just going to vanish anyway, and you're not going to want to use it when you're winning the combat. So
Trolls
or trolls.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty viable too. Cool. Well, that I think overall a pretty nice set of items, to be honest.
it's beautiful. Yeah, let's have a quick shout out to the items that have gone. Shady Shankin, which here and there people did have it a little bit. Maz's Zappin.
Attack Nasher.
Yeah, exactly. Maz's Zappin is gone because I don't think they're really encouraging shooting anymore. Mikanuk's Totem is gone. That was a lot of text. I'm not surprised it's gone. Green Tide banner is gone.
Yes.
I think that's all included as part of the old Brood rivalry now, because instead of the extra ranks attacking, you just get it on the front rank. So
yeah, the magic item is gone, but the Green Tide lives on in spirit later on in
indeed.
the book.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned before, Crown of the Cavern King is gone. It's kind of been
sad,
outdated, really.
Yeah, with a bigger crown.
Yeah, and the Troll Ale Flask is now basically the Attack Nasher as well.
Nice.
So, yeah, lovely.
No, very cool, very cool. And
if in doubt, Attack Nasher.
Attack Nasher.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Cool. Over to the characters then. Orc Warlord. Lots of options in terms of turning it into a feral Iron Orc, sort of loner, or the veteran warlord. So lots of options. Yeah. Quite cool.
So I guess this is the first. This is the first orc that we're looking at. So what we used to consider feral, common, and iron are now feral, veteran, and iron. So anytime, and that's the idea of the feral orcs are the youngins, the iron orcs are the oldest, and the veterans are the ferals that didn't die. But yeah,
accidentally didn't die.
They accidentally didn't die. Yeah, you just get the different flavors. The interesting one is, you mentioned it, the orc loner. So the orcs now have an honest to orky god cowboy.
Yeah, not a leader, stubborn, which is cool. Exclusive weapon master and plate armor. So yeah, very cool. And if you have a general, you can have 2 of them.
Yeah, interesting. Go on, Gobbo.
You can chuck him on an Iron Orc chariot as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stubborn Chariots is pretty nice.
Well, I'm wondering. Like, I've genuinely been wondering when I was looking at the orc lists about an orc loner on Wyvern because it's a stubborn Wyvern.
Yeah.
Like, it's an Iron Orc who hurts. Like, he hurts when he gets into combat, and also, we know that if you have any other orcs in combat, then everyone's getting +1 attack. So now this orc has 5 attacks base plus a Wyvern plus all his.
He wouldn't get the extra attack himself, would he? Because
Oh,
he wouldn't have his unit. He'd have to have a unit to get the extra attack.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah. Otherwise, in terms of things, so that's the loner, the Iron Orc normal, Warlord normal.
He's lost the discipline.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, is that overall?
Yeah, overall. And of course, we've amalgamated the Warlord and the Chief together, though. So that's kind of like a running theme with Ninth Age books at the minute. The lesser choice and the higher choice get merged together into one choice.
Yeah.
Discipline 9 is effectively gone from the whole book, but that's because of the minimized tests. So it's just kind of still there in a different form. I don't think
so
it's
you have
concern,
minimized break, fear, and panic.
Yeah.
So
and that's pretty much blanket across all of the orcs.
Yeah.
Like they're not scared, and once they get into combat, they want to be there.
Yeah, your rally tests are a little bit dicey, but just don't. Just either die or win, basically.
Yeah. It's a good mantra.
We'll also notice that there's no battle standard bearer option available for this melee-centric character, which we'll come back to.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, the difference is depending on what you take, you can go in with different units. Ferals also get battle focus and frenzy. The Iron Orcs get weapon master, basically. The loner, as we said, gets stubborn and not a leader, and the veteran just gets heavy armor.
He's just a veteran.
He's just a veteran.
Compared to the old book, the stat lines have been kind of glommed together because it used to be.
Yeah, they're all defensive 6 now.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. And Grunter, it would be the Warboar from old.
Indeed. Yes. It was a bit more expensive than it used to be, actually, and not necessarily changed, but I think that's because of overall the bigger picture. They're a bit more dangerous as cowboys.
Yeah,
sure.
The Warlord itself's gone down as well.
Yeah, 20 points,
Yeah. Moving on to Orc Shaman, and again has the Brood Rivalry exclusive Brood Rivalry or Trolls, so that's interest for some.
You mentioned the magic word, trigger, Gobbo, go, Trolls.
It's an Orc, I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, fair enough.
So Pyro, Shamanism, Thaumaturgy, and sort of basic. There's not a lot difference here. Res 5 is interesting.
Yeah, they're old they're old boot orcs. Again, stat line's been squished because there's no feral orc stat line. We miss like the old slim shaman used to have 5+ Aegis.
All feral orcs had some form of Aegis, and that's gone entirely now because the whole feral orc, common orc doesn't exist anymore. It's level of experience now, isn't it? So the Aegis save doesn't have a place anymore, which I am sad. Generally, but I get it.
Otherwise, for the unit, this wizard's pretty much the same as he was.
He's got to pay for his light armor now. He's got to pay 5 points rather than just getting it. But I don't think that's a groundbreaking change. So,
but nothing too dissimilar from him. So we'll move on to the Goblin characters.
Oh, here we go. Now they get excited.
And Goblin Demagogue.
Yeah.
Nice.
First up.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
It's a good name.
Goblin Demagogue. So, yeah, I mean, like the orcs, they've kind of smushed Goblin King and Goblin Chief into one. So he kind of sits somewhere between the two stat blocks of old.
Yeah, because he's lost his skill in doing so. He's gone from skill offensive and defensive 5 to 4 now, which is fine.
Scary for a Goblin. But yeah, has lots of has kind of options that you'd expect to see. Does have battle standard bearer.
Yeah.
Well, you say options that you expect to see. One of the big new rules is Goblin Gardens.
Goblin Gardens, yeah.
Which you may choose fields, forest, ruins, or water terrain. All models treat terrain features of the chosen terrain as dangerous terrain. Models that would normally treat them as dangerous terrain 1 treat them as dangerous terrain 2. In addition, friendly models gain Strider X, where X is the chosen terrain. So basically, it's like a favoured terrain by the Goblin army that they've put little traps in. I quite like.
So this is like working towards the Goblin army just being an absolute nuisance to deal with. So the idea is they've just booby trapped the battlefield ahead of time.
Yeah, but your 10% orcs are screwed.
Yes. Your
Because they don't
orcs,
get the Strider from it.
Nashers,
No one's going to take 10% orcs.
It does also mean though, if you've got big goblin blocks, you can happily plonk them in like a ruin, and
Yes.
like you're not losing steadfast because you've got Strider.
Yeah.
So it seems like the dangerous terrain is maximised at 2. So for example, if cavalry go through ruins, it wouldn't then go from 2 to 3 because it specifically says
1 to 2.
1 to 2, not +1.
I see. Yes.
Other thing to consider as well is that if you've got the Blackvine banner, you automatically have Forest Strider for that unit. So you could then choose Ruins or something else as your Goblin Gardens.
Double Strider.
Yeah.
So you're then starting to really trap down everything.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I haven't studied all the map packs, but if there is like a specific one, that'd be really interesting. Like the one that stands out as more things. That'd be
I mean, bear in mind because you get to choose this off so at the game. So you just look at whatever terrain piece is most predominant on your table and go, by the way, all of the fields have got bear traps in them.
Yeah, I mean, because game-wise, if you took that banner, forest banner, and did water, that's pretty much infantry's weakness, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. No, nice. I like it. Otherwise, anything of note from him?
It's lost an attack as well as part of the becoming the combined with the chief.
Yes.
And the general only can go on a Gargantula.
Yeah.
The mounts got new names. So we have beasties.
Yeah.
Instead of wolves and/or spider. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Gargantula, as we know it, from the old book, is a general only mount. For those goblin players who are feeling brave.
It's almost a character only mount, a Gargantula, because
we'll see later.
The other option is called something else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, very true.
Spoiler.
It's hard not to with this book. It's so full of synergies. Yeah.
Goblin Witch, very much the same without the gardens thing, and has pyro, thaumaturgy, and witchcraft as so.
I really love that this guy is discipline 8, whereas the orc shaman is discipline 7.
Yeah. So Ryan, like Gobbo, made the point during the playtesting that because the witch and the demagogue are both discipline 8, sometimes there's not really anything stopping you from having a goblin witch as a general and not feeling bad about it.
Yeah.
Apart from you lose the gardens effect. But
the gardens,
and you're paying for the Darmu, but
and he can also go on the Gargantula as stated.
Yeah.
So,
but he doesn't have to be the general.
No.
So you can have a general with Golden Gardens and then a witch on the Gargantula.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Next one is Gogtuck Initiate.
Okay.
Just a quick shout out to the fact that the power shrooms are gone in the book. Or the goblin casters. But carry on.
The Initiates. This is so it's a new way of looking at making goblins tricksy and annoying. So there used to be pages of rules for mad gits, shady gits, netter. There was rules for netters, and so now what they've done is turned what used to be those unit upgrades into cheap character options. So the 40 points base, and they're like pretty super duper goblins in the grand scheme of things. So they've got two hit points, 2 attacks each. They're strength 4, which is a thing that we'll come back to. They're distracting. They've got paired weapons. But you pay 40 points, and then you have to choose an upgrade for them. So maulers, headhunters, maggots, netters. Maulers are goblins with a big club, and battle focus and hatred. Headhunters are the runabout throwing poison
assassins.
They're the assassin types. Maggots are maggots as we know them, but they're one and done because of the changes with force of destruction instead of ricochet. And netters now give -1 agility, -1 AP instead of a strength debuff. But which is huge. Up to a maximum of 2. What's incredible about them is that they're kind of like assassins from sort of like Vermiswarm or Dread Elves, where they appear when you want them to.
Yeah, in the unit you want to,
yeah. So you don't have to tell, like, your opponent will know. So if you're taking a Darmu army, you can have up to 6 Mad Gits, for example. So your opponent would know that 6 of your, like, some of your units could have. You've got Schrodinger's Mad Gits, basically. Any Goblin infantry unit could have up to 6 Mad Gits pop out of it.
Yeah.
So all could be in one as well.
Or they could all be in one, yeah, because they're just hidden. Now they replace a model from the unit. So if you had 6 Mad Gits, 6 goblins would disappear. But the same goes
for 6
for
goblins, you'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. The netters now, the -1 agility, -1 AP. And again, like, you don't, as an opponent, again, the opponent doesn't know which unit has this in. And if you
don't have to say, do you?
Well, you do. You have to declare it, but you have many options of the times you can declare it. But it's all part of the hidden rule, which is now in the rule book, which is crucial.
Sure.
It's not taking space in the Orc book, which is massive.
Yeah.
So
and if the initiate pops up in a cavalry unit, then apart from the Mad Git, they get a free mount.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sure. Cool.
So if you charge in a unit of Goblin Cav and you decide my 3 Maulers are going to appear in my Goblin Cav unit, then they're mounted Maulers.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have 3 or 6 of these.
Yeah.
They're so cheap as well. Like, even the upgrades is just 10 points. You're paying 50 points max for this.
Yeah.
So,
Darmu can take up to 8, but only a certain number of each.
Yeah, so it's 6 of each type, 8 total.
Yeah.
But the way that they've done it really kind of helps to keep the opponent on their toes.
Absolutely.
As if they're not already.
As if they're not already, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is quite strong, and definitely will mess with people.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, those are really fun.
Definitely ones to look out for. In terms of mounts, we'll go over these quite quickly. The Grunter is the boar, pretty much the same.
Similar to how it was, +1 strength AP on the charge.
Yep. Same with the Grunter Chariot.
Well, he's actually lost an impact hit, which is a little bit sad. He's D6
good.
rather than D6 +1, which is a bit sad, but Okay. And his riders are gone as well, so it's just the character on top. No longer is he accompanied by any Ed Basher riders.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
Yes, probably not a problem.
Wyvern?
He's got +1 attack and +1 agility, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's really nice.
But he and the Gargantua has lost Venomous Fangs. Venomous Fangs is no longer a thing, which I'm a bit sad by, because I've always rolled the maximum amount of wounds whenever I've been successful with Venomous Fangs.
You can give him a stomp with Big Win.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's instead of what it used to be, which was +1 strength, devastating charge. Now it's Stomp D3, which I think is probably just as good, if not better. So
cool. So interesting, but not too dissimilar in terms of
no. Prices for it have changed a bit as well, but for the characters to take it, but arguably they've changed appropriately. So
cool. Goblin mounts Beastie.
So
it's good.
It's not a direct comparison to the wolves. So they're slower than wolves at 8-16 inches.
But they're quicker than spiders used to be at 7-14.
Spiders 7-14.
They've just basically brought them both into the middle and called them beasties. I love that.
2 attacks now.
You can give them 2 attacks. You can give them creepy crawlies, which is the ghost step and poison, if you want them to be a spider. For me, the 2 attacks is one thing, but the fact that they're AP1.
AP1. Cheeky, isn't it?
That has been remarkably spicy. And bear in mind, this is the baseline beastie, so we'll see how that affects certain units later on in the book.
And you can have Beastie and a Chariot as well.
It's interesting that still sticking with the Beastie, they've lost the Vanguard, Feigned Flight, and Light Troops, whereas the unit can get it. I'm not sure how that'll apply to a character, because the character won't have it and the unit will, and sometimes that does cause problems. So I'm not sure how much that might change in the future, potentially. But
Pet monster, which is the old huntsman spider, or they've actually got a thing for huntsman spiders.
So yeah, this is like the cave nasher of old. So the 40mm base.
This is so clever. They basically just made a one-size-fits-all, 40 by 40. You know, like your nasher, it's just the huntsman spider. They're all in one entry. It's just made the book so much more streamlined. It's very clever.
Yeah, really good.
I mean, by comparison, it's a bit weaker than the Nasher was, but
yeah,
it's got an extra attack. So yeah, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, I think so. And the Gargantula. So we will talk about him. He is 6 attacks, strength 6, res 6, so a pip of extra strength. 7 HP.
But it has lost 2 attacks for it though, and venomous fangs. So
and the defensive.
And stubborn, crucially.
And stubborn.
Yeah, there's a lot that it's lost.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it is cheaper, isn't it?
A lot cheaper. A lot cheaper.
They've just dulled it down a bit.
And Spider Shrine is no longer a thing, which is a bit of a shame for fluff reasons, but I get it. They're just making it a bit less quirky, I guess.
Yeah. Which takes us through the characters. On to core. Goblin Rabble.
Hey!
Most important unit in the book.
Yes. There you go. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, Goblin Rabble. This unit entry is somewhat smaller than it is in the.
Yeah, it's a whole page on its own, wasn't it?
Yeah,
6 pages, including all the upgrades.
Yeah, true.
So
Strength 2.
It's gone.
Strength 2. They're quite important.
Yes. So this is a big thing.
Oh, way to calm them down right from the off. Throw the wet towel over.
Pipe down, Gobliners.
Strength 2. Yeah. So that's the big thing for goblins is that they're the opposite of like vermin swarm ratties. So these are strength 2, res 3. Otherwise, the stat block is relatively similar. There is just one.
I'll build you back up.
Yeah,
I'll build you back up. They get light armor for free. I'm excited.
So yeah, they're basically it is a midway point between like getting free light armor like common goblins. They get the agility like cave goblins.
Yeah.
They can get poison from that Blackroot banner.
Yep.
Yeah,
Goblin
one
cunning
block.
as well.
Impressively, they made them cheaper. So it used to be 120 points for 20 plus 5 per model. Now it's plus 4 per model. Still 0 to 20, still scoring. Bear in mind that these units can now leg it relatively reliably.
Have a unit of 60 models that just leg it.
Yeah,
precisely. Light troops. I think that's cool.
Plus a banner of speed.
Yeah. I mean, what also helps is that I think in the list I've got like 160 of these boys are, what did I say? It was like less than 300 points or something.
Yeah.
Crazy.
350, I think is what you said before the banner. Yeah.
I think that's including the banner.
Yeah.
I was including the banner, fair enough.
No, but yeah, so some very cool stuff in this and a much simplified version, but yeah.
And I think there's enough stuff. Yeah, there's enough stuff in the book that they can actually be pretty tar-pity, because bear in mind the Goblin Rabble on their own or whatever, but by the time you start adding in like in the initiates, so 2 goblin netters in there, now you've got goblins with spears that are imposing -2 agility and AP. So like now these goblins probably do have a 5 up save because they've got light armor and shields.
Yeah.
For example. Yeah.
Chuck a couple of maulers in there, maybe 6 maggots, and it's disgusting.
The mechanic to nullify AP is really good, especially with the lack of random banner now as well. So across the game, so that's really interesting to see. Although it's not like you've got 2 up armor, so
not yet.
Not yet. Goblin Reavers.
Okay, yes. I changed my mind. Yeah, this is most important. This is the most exciting unit in the book, I think.
Yep, same.
Goblin Cav.
Yeah.
Scoring Goblin Cav.
Goblin Cav.
I love this. I love the enthusiasm of these two. It's quite infectious in Goblin way.
I just love the fact that the beasties more attacks and they're stronger than the goblins that are riding them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean,
makes sense.
For 170 points, you get 8 Goblin Cav.
8,
Yeah, 2 attack beasties. They come with lances for free,
8
and
to
they need lances.
25.
8 to 25, yeah. You have to give them lances because they're only strength 2 base. So strength 4, AP 2 on the charge. So one thing to point out, staff, you kind of touched on this earlier. They aren't light troops as base. No. They are scoring. So, Goblin players I feel that Goblin players have dreaded the breakthrough secondaries since the game started, right? Because they've just had no fast-moving scoring. But having kind of 8 strong darts running about is super handy.
I mean, they're only 10 points extra per model.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
A
unit of 25 cav could be quite
trying to work
amusing.
It out. 17, so 340 points.
So you can upgrade the beasties to creepy crawlies. So that gives them ghost step. So if you have a big cavalry unit, suddenly you can be charging through
and
terrain
poison with AP1
and poison with
2 attacks each.
Yeah. The unit. So in all of the playtest games that I played, the Goblin Cav did work. Like more than I was expecting. Certainly more than my opponent was expecting.
Did you run units of 24, 8 wide?
No, I was running a unit of like 15. With I think there were some maulers in there from memory, but yeah, I think everyone's in a position where they look at Goblin Cav and go, "Oh, whatever," and then suddenly a unit's gone.
Yeah.
But also, you can throw the Madgets out of them.
Unfortunately, not. Because the Madgets have to come out of infantry.
Oh, big pardon. But the netters, your maulers, your headhunters.
Oh, that's pretty decent. Yeah. And strength 4 AP 2 is actually surprisingly good.
Yeah, and then if you break the next turn, you can choose to auto flee. You maximize your flee distance, so they're off. And so then they auto rally. Come back.
Does that mean if you've got like a test of like a 3, you're like, no, I'll just choose to flee?
Yeah, I'll just. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That's really cool.
And in doing so, you give your Orc Shaman that Velto.
Yeah.
Yes.
We just
determined to make Gobbo play an Orc Shaman on his own in his Goblin army.
Look back at the Orc Shaman. The Orc Shaman just nods, and they know.
I got this.
Otherwise, Spies is a unit upgrade which makes them similar to old Cav, so it gives them Feign Flight, Light Troops, Vanguard.
Yeah.
They lose scoring. So I guess the Feign Flight bit attacks into the Goblin Cunning quite well because you can choose to flee, maximize the flee distance, auto rally next turn, and because you chose like the Feign Flight, I believe would then allow you to move again.
Yeah.
So they become better hit and runners than like anything from the Makar list.
And the free option is to do that as well, so that's really cool. Cool. Well, moving on to Feral Orcs.
More like it.
Yeah, there we are.
Well,
we'll be quiet now.
It's a different it's a different concept of Feral Orc though. So effectively, it isn't the Feral Orc as we know it is gone. So it's very different in that respect. So,
I never thought I'd say this, but it doesn't have the defensive qualities the old Feral Orc has.
or any qualities that the old Feral Orc has.
Oh, it's got battle focus.
Yeah.
Food rivalry as well.
Yeah, I mean it's got everything that you need in an orc in this book. So there is that. It's very cheap as well. I mean, there used to be various different prices for orcs in the old book because of all the different types, and none of them were as cheap as 8 points per model. They were all more expensive than that.
Yeah, sure.
And also, you
really
can
basic
get up to 50
orc
of
was
these.
points, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas an Ed Basher, well, it was, a Feral Orc was 13, an Orc Common Ed Basher was 16, and a Feral Orc Ed Basher was 22. So, this is cheap as chips in the grand scheme of things. And like I say, you can get up to 50 of them. So, this is, you're getting what you pay for, and this is a dumbed down Feral Orc.
The unit does have to be 25 minimum rather than 20, because I know a lot of armies just took spans units of 20 ferals.
Yeah.
but it's also interesting that you just get all like loads of weapons. You got hand weapon, you can buy shields, but you get paired weapons and spears.
Yeah.
Yep.
And these are the first thing of crude weapons. So essentially, you buy whatever you want, but after the first round, they stop being that weapon and just turn to hand weapons.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't even have to buy them; you actually just get them.
Sure.
So there is that. But it doesn't matter which weapon you choose in that first round of combat; they're all rubbish in the second round of combat.
Yes.
So.
they're all just hand weapons.
Strength 4 AP 0 as well, worth noting, and discipline 6. So
yeah, so I guess we haven't really touched on it, but looking at an orc for the first time, they don't have, obviously in this new book, you don't have Born to Fight. There's no +1 strength on the first round of combat, because instead, strength 4 base.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to be hoping to get that extra attack to make up for it. Because there is no guile to. Well, guile's the wrong word considering the hereditary spell. There is no technique with their attack. They're literally just swinging and bashing.
Yeah.
So the AP, I think, is made up for that. They're just going for it basically. They're not aiming for under the armpit or whatnot. They're not trying to get through the armor. They're just trying to bash through it. So that's
Strength
why
4 spears though, it's not too bad.
Strength 4 spears, and as I've said, we've got those abilities to get them an extra attack elsewhere if needed as well. So,
well, with paired weapons, these guys could have 3 attacks each.
Yeah,
in the front rank.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Moving on to the Feral Orc Marauders. So the skirmish version, are they?
No, these are the mounted.
Oh, right, okay.
So what would have been, Feral Orc Ball Riders.
Yes, of course.
I think
unit
these
size
are cheaper too. You have to take minimum. I used to, in all of my Feral Orc lists, used to take units of 5 and make them scoring darts that were fearless. Both those things are taken out of it now because you don't have fearless anymore. Obviously, you got minimized. And the units are 10 rather than 5, so they're not quite the darts that they used to be. They are cheaper in comparison, model by model. 16 for a Feral Orc instead of 18 now. And even more for a special choice version. But they're still all right. Nothing wrong with them.
So similar, but on a grunter is what I'm saying. Shield at 2 points models there. Veteran Orcs.
Hang on, before you do, it's worth talking about the battle standard bearer factor in both of these feral units. Because I don't think we've seen that in any army book, really. Even the Saurian version isn't really this. But yeah, these core units can take a battle standard bearer as an upgrade to their banner enchantment. But if they do, they become a special choice unit. So they're no longer core. But effectively, that's making up for the fact that you haven't got an orc character that is a BSB anymore. Okay. The orc BSB is now a unit.
Does
BSB.
it count as? It doesn't count as. So if you kill the battle standard bearer,
doesn't matter.
So you
unit
have
needs to be killed.
Wipe out the whole unit before you lose your BSB. It does mean that unit
up to the champion. Yeah.
It does mean that you have to your unit will grant 200 extra VPs, but this is the Orcs and Goblin, or the Orcs, I should say, specific BSB quirk is that the BSB is a non-character.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting.
So it's the idea of there is a unit of orcs, and they are the biggest and the scariest, and they get to carry the big flag.
Yeah, and that flag specifically can have 2 banner enchantments.
Yeah, no reason why it can't.
Yeah, no limit. Same as normal.
Obviously, it's in special though, so you're not spending core tax on it.
Yes,
so
sure. That comes from special. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. But I quite like that. I think that's quite a nice touch.
So if you take the BSB on any of those, they count as special. So you can then take the Head Basher's trophy and the Totem of the Only King on that unit.
Yeah.
Yes, which we mentioned earlier was important. Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. That is and that trend continues with the veteran orcs. They can take that as well. They do have the AP.
So veteran orcs, they're veteran now. So by comparison, their offensive and defensive skills went up by 1.
Yeah.
So their weapons.
They're basically head bashers. Yeah.
Basically head bashers. Again, strength 4 base. So you don't have to worry about whether or not Born to Fight was triggering or not. They are so. One thing to bear in mind, whereas the unit entries for the Orcs, for example, say that they're discipline 6, the Brood Alpha would bump them up to 7.
Yeah,
and they have to take the champion. They don't have a choice.
The champion's free. So, that's there you go. They can take the BSB unit. That's
otherwise, cool. You're better Orcs in the core.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I found it a bit weird, like adapting to the whole. Well, where are the normal Orcs? Like you've got feral Orcs, now you've got veteran Orcs. Well, what about just the Orcs? Like without the veteran, but that it's a different class system now. Ferals are lower class, if there is such a thing.
Yeah. You can swing them either way, can't you?
Yeah, there is no such thing as just an Orc anymore. It's feral, veteran, iron. So
veteran Orc Marauders, as opposed to the feral Orc Marauders, are in special as well.
Yes, they are. Yes.
So similar in that regard, and the going up one. They're just the same, but on Grunters.
Yeah,
but I mean, the unit entry itself is relatively similar to what it was, but now bear in mind that your strength has gone up by 1 base. If there's other Orcs fighting, you get +1 attack. There's just so so I have a unit of 10 Orc Marauders with the War Boss in, with the Warlord in, and it made a mess.
Yeah, you have lost 1 pip of armor though on this heavy cavalry version.
Yeah,
it used to be 2 up. It's now only 3 up. But
but these can be 5 as well, so you can have your little darts if you want to convert from special. So that's interesting. Moving on to Iron Orcs and the elite of the Orcs. With that
really cool,
stubborn.
Yeah, instead of bodyguard, which is quite cool. I mean, you don't see a lot of stubborn on units these days.
I think that's quite big. They're going to be hanging around. Higher offensive and defensive, higher AP as base, and then you've got the weapon master as well. So I quite like these actually.
Yeah,
and you can give them crossbows.
They can go crossbows pretty easily.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the stubborn bit is, bear in mind, pairing with the fact that they're doing minimized break tests because they're Orcs.
Yeah.
But they are only base discipline 7. But obviously, with the champion, they stay at 7. Because the alpha doesn't change that. But so even though you're stubborn instead of bodyguard, you probably still want a character nearby or in them to make them at least 8. Because it's a little bit, even with minimized, I don't think anyone really wants to be doing a minimized 7.
No.
So
BSB them and put a discipline banner on it.
Indeed, yeah.
But they're not fearless.
Nothing is. No.
So you would be -1 if you come up against fear.
Not fearless, but again, they've got minimized fear tests, if that helps.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been thinking the discipline goes down, doesn't it?
Debuff, yeah.
So if you don't have a general, they actually go down to minimize stubborn 6 against fear. So be careful. They're still cowards, right?
Yeah.
Iron Orc Chariots. Movement 7, discipline 7.
But you can have 2 in a unit.
Yeah. You've lost your normal. I say normal. You've lost your Orc Chariot.
Yes.
Like there's no veteran Orc Chariot. So let's just go straight to Iron Orc.
Yeah. The background fluff behind it is that when a veteran Orc progresses to Iron status, they decided that they need 2 boars, 2 grunters rather than 1.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the hierarchy progression in terms of.
And again, I don't know whether this is a common theme for all chariots, but it's only D6. It's not D6 plus 1.
Indeed, yeah. The Goblin chariots have remained D6 plus 1. Actually, it's only the Orc chariots that have been calmed down.
That is interesting.
Not really sure why, but yeah.
But yeah, can be a standard and can be a champion.
Which I think, like I say, there's no cap on the champion. You have to take a champion because you're Brood Rivalry.
Yeah.
Or Brood Alpha, whichever one it is. But yeah, that gives one of the chariots HP 5. There's no cap on it, which is pretty brutal for a chariot, especially Res 5.
The other thing, I think this unit fills a slightly different role to the original chariot because the original chariot had lances. So obviously, we expect chariots to do work on the charge. But
Hmm.
because these are Iron Orcs and they have Weapon Master with great weapons and paired weapons, they can just be Strength 6,
Yeah.
like all the way through. So
would be worth noting, obviously, if you have just the Orc General, they can be 0 to 4 as well.
Yes.
In terms of a unit, so it could be pretty brutal actually.
Yeah.
You can also put a banner of speed on them as well. So for 8/8 chariot.
Are you
I
allowed?
don't think you can. No,
I
you
think it's
need
just standard
just
bear, isn't it?
it's just a
yeah,
standard
no
bearer.
enchantment.
I was going to say
Oh,
actually
big
on
one.
that, I'm not sure how much that actually adds. +1 combat res is basically it, isn't it?
Yeah, but 10 points if you got it to spend.
But yeah, I mean, 0 to 4. They could hold
2
up.
units
They
of
could
2.
take charges at strength 6. Strength 6 AP4. Yeah, interesting.
One thing we forgot to mention about the standard Iron Orcs is they've lost the plate armor. They're just heavy armor shield now. So
Yes.
Sure. So these are 3 up as well.
but these are 3 up. The normal Iron Orcs are 4 up. But yeah.
Fair enough. Gog Tuck Neophytes.
I'm not even speaking for this. Come on, Gobbo.
Ambush goblins that are scoring.
Unbelievable.
Yes,
Nice.
Take that, dwarves.
love it. Absolutely love them.
Yeah.
So basically, these are the.
mouths dropped when we saw this, didn't they?
Oh, it's amazing. So good. So good.
That's it. That's all the explanation.
So good.
So I'll just rereading it again. So they're basically the neophytes, then progress to the initiates, which are the character versions in the lore. So they start out in little groups like these. So you can have them in units of 10 to 20, ambushing, but they score as well. They're a little bit better than normal goblins, but they've got poison attacks as base, they've got paired weapons as base, and throwing weapons as base.
Strength 3 base.
Really, really cool.
Yeah. Can you put the initiates in them?
Yeah.
Would you be able to ambush?
Yeah.
Yep.
You could have
Your character wouldn't have ambush though, so you wouldn't be able to ambush with the character.
No, they're hidden, so
they're
they
hidden,
come out
right?
afterwards.
Oh.
So you could have units of 20 goblin commandos popping up behind an enemy line
6.
and then throwing maggots out.
Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, see you later, gunline.
As we understand it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah,
I also quite like the
cool.
creeper upgrade as well. I think the hard target 1 with the scout skirmisher strider as well is really, really cool.
Yeah. So it makes them very similar to the forest goblin creepers. Was that what they were called? From the old book. I mean, personally, I wouldn't take creepers because just having ambushing scoring units.
Yeah.
Like it's 170 points for 10. It's 270 points for 20.
Yeah.
Just they appear in a back line. They camp out. Cool. You've just like if it's breakthrough, for example.
Yeah.
Done.
Oh, cool. I like.
I'm not sure about the ambush thing, by the way, because I'm just looking at the hidden rule. At the start of any player turn, the owner may choose a friendly unit that meets all the following conditions, and the first bullet point is the model with hidden could have been deployed in it if it weren't for hidden and any other special deployment. An ambush would be a special deployment.
Fair enough.
So
I don't think. But you can do the mad gits from this unit still.
But they just can't ambush if you do that.
Yeah. Well, no, they can ambush. I think because the mad gits specifically say you can pop them up from a neophyte unit. You don't actually have to be in a unit. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I've got the brain power today to work it out.
If anybody's watching and knows, that perhaps then let us know. But that's one thing to be clarified.
Because the mad gits don't require to be in a unit. They can just come out from a unit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the idea that goblin neophytes have got some maggots in a bag.
Yeah.
Just
fair enough.
Potentially, yeah.
Sticking with the goblins, and we've got goblin chariots. So they have the +1 D6 +1, which is nice. Couple of beasties.
Still have it, yeah.
Still have light troops, so they're still very
They have lost the movement though. They're not 9 now because of the amalgamation of the spider and the wolf.
Yeah.
And only 3 in a unit now.
Yes.
You can't make the beasties creepy crawlers.
Nope.
Okay.
No spider chariot.
They are like wolves, basically.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. And can be 0 to 3 units of them if you have a goblin general. But otherwise, yeah. Grotlings.
Beloved mascots.
Beloved mascots.
Hmm.
And Grotling Scrapwagon also has, well, 2 of them as a both, I think. They both have a beloved mascot. So if we remind ourselves what beloved mascots is.
So this is if an enemy unit is fighting against a unit with beloved mascots. So if an enemy unit is fighting Grotlings or Grotling Scrapwagon,
Or something else.
or something else, your other units get hatred against that enemy unit. So the idea is, like, your Orcs or Goblins are saying, "Don't pick on my little brother."
Yeah.
You're trying to save the Grotlings by killing what's attacking your Grotlings.
Or they're just having so much fun seeing their little brothers get beaten up that they just enjoy themselves more.
They work fairly similar to before.
I mean, yeah,
they're not throwing weapons.
Oh no. Yeah, I mean, it was a travesty that the Grotlings never had throwing weapons, but then arguably only had 1 each. Because it was per model, but I guess they've kind of looked at it because now they get extra support for 3.
Yeah.
So they get more attacks in combat. But they're still designed to just be a little
big thing on the scrap wagon though is grind attacks. Never had them before.
Yeah.
So after it was one and done with the impact hits, they were done for pretty much because they only had the riders. Now they've got grind attacks. I know they're only strength 4, but still, I mean, better than having nothing.
3.
I mean, that's the idea that they're going to last 1 round as well.
Yeah. Well, you want them to last 1 round while your other unit comes in later. So.
Well, I mean, it's arguably designed to be a bit more of a grinder. It's got +1 extra wound compared to.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And an extra agility as well.
Yeah.
Well, not that relates to that.
They just spin the grinder a bit quicker.
Yeah. Very cool.
But there's no Vanguard on the Grotling. Oh no, they've got Scout.
Scouts, but not Vanguard. Yeah.
No Vanguard. Yeah.
No throwing weapons anymore.
And no, that's just it. And Nashers.
Oh boy.
Okay. So there was a bit of a panic during the playtest for this unit, I must admit. Especially when I'd looked upon Nashageddon, my Nashageddon list. But they've rectified it. I won't talk about how they rectified it, but they rectified it.
They made a mistake, but what I said made them.
They made them cheaper, so that's a tick in my book. The stat line is very, very similar. They've dropped the defensive down to 2. Now, being fair, I don't think Nashers ever should have been defensive 4.
Yeah, that caught me out a few times. That did.
But otherwise, they're still strength 5, AP 2, 2 attacks each. There's no they blow up.
Yes.
When they break from combat, like they just break and flee normally. There's an upgrade called Nasher Dashers, which I think is fantastic. So instead of a Nasher Dasher unit, precisely, you can simply give units of 10 Nashers a fly speed, so 612, hard target, light troops and skirmisher, and that's like 2 points each, which means for 145 points, you've got a unit of 10 very bitey chaff, like flying chaff models.
Which doesn't have the impact hits rules anymore.
No.
One thing I want to try and clarify, Dan, as well, is that the original Nasher herds used to have Oyet bites, which means you couldn't add characters to them.
Now you can.
True.
Now you don't.
Oh no.
Oh no.
And a pet monster fits in there quite nicely. Same base size. So, you could have units of character pet monsters. Backed up by ranks of Nashers.
Absolutely. One thing I will point out, I think it has been a change. It's not been something I've really noticed because I've only ever played kind of all goblins or all orcs. The Nashers are insignificant as they always were. The goblins aren't? ?
No, they're not.
So just bear that in mind for the mixed armies, which is a thing.
Yeah.
Some people will take orcs.
Orcs and goblins living together.
I think actually it's more important for the opponents of the new Orcs and Goblins book to remember this because the Orc player is going to be Orc and Goblin player is going to be so ingrained knowing, oh, my goblins are insignificant, I don't care. That's easily forgotten as an Orc and Goblin player. Whereas
Especially
I think if the opponent reminds them, they might have to do that.
Yeah, because especially goblins auto breaking around,
Yeah,
voluntarily breaking around each other.
Yeah, don't do it with your Discipline 6 Iron Orc standing next to them. not actually the case.
Next one in the Wrecking Team. The good old force of destruction that it is.
So brilliant. There's one stat which I'm going to throw at the end before you move on, Tom. Before you move on to the next unit, if it hasn't already been said, ask me something. But carry on, Dan.
I will.
Well, so it's cheaper than it was, but that's because it's a one and done. I think anyone who took Wrecking Teams religiously, which I think is every Orc and Goblin player ever, realistically, let's be honest, realistically, the Wrecking Teams are only ever really making it into one unit anyway.
Yeah.
So getting a 40-point reduction on that is nice.
Yeah.
There's still random movement, 3d6. So one thing I did notice in some of the playtests is because of the strip out of rules like Shambolic and Ricochet, because the Wrecking Team, for example, is just random movement, you can yeet Wrecking Teams and maggots through terrain without worrying about it.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
So that took one of my opponents by surprise. To be fair, it took me by surprise. But
I mean, they still do take DTs, and they are large.
For
they
sure.
take 2 DTs, but
for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So go on then. Throw that stat at us.
Go on.
90 points is now 10 points cheaper than a giant eagle. Yes! An eagle jumping on top of me. I now gain 10 points from you doing that.
Nice.
No more can you use up your eagle on destroying my more expensive Wrecking Team. Because I gained 10 points from you doing that.
Suicide, he doesn't care how much he costs.
The only other thing, for example, is that it's 2d6 damage regardless. It's not 3d6 if you land on it.
I believe
it is
destruction.
3d6, yeah.
Yeah, it's an additional d6.
If someone comes into you,
it's
the last sentence.
Yeah, on the specific force destruction. But otherwise it's 2d6 for sure.
I mean, talking about force of destruction,
and that's the same whether it's a Wrecking Team or a Maggot.
Right? Correct.
So the Maggot specifies 2d6 hits, I believe. Sorry,
no, it's still 3d6 from a Maggot as well.
2d6 Maggot, which means if someone goes into a Maggot, they take 3d6. That's an extra. Yeah.
Cool.
The Wrecking Team has lost an AP as well. It used to be 6 AP before. Now it's just 3.
Very cool. And because it's not even worth having offensive defensive build.
Just to really let you know, you can't charge it.
Like basically, I reckon it would have been more topical if they made that offensive 10, defensive 0. Better than a herald.
Right, moving on to trolls, and there is still.
Go on, Gobbo.
Well, I'm quite impressed at the Still Forest Cave and Bridge. So go on, Gobbo. What we got?
Yeah, I was quite happy that they've actually branched out and got more different types of troll rather than like everything else, which has been condensed.
Yeah.
But Res 5 trolls are just beautiful.
Nice.
Staff's not happy about the fact that they're only 2 attacks each, which I get it.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy, but I am very happy with the whole book as a whole. So I'm letting this one pass, really. So you are not unhappy by it. So I'm going to let you go free rein.
You know what the biggest thing about it is? There is no stupid rule. Thank God.
So,
finally.
Yeah, it's huge on any of the forest trolls. So a whole load of complexity gone from that, I guess, from that point of view. Advanced 412 is an interesting one for me.
So they can be a bit difficult to get into combat because they're down to move 4 as opposed to
just
move
a bit
6.
slow to get going, really.
Yeah.
But once they're going,
they don't have like troll belts or anything like that, so no auto hitting attacks.
Shame.
But like you can take units of 10. You could have 30 trolls in an army, and they're just units that don't budge.
Yeah, and I think whereas they had like bit of both last time with all the Forest Cave thing, they are very much tanky. You're just making them a different type of tanky, aren't you? With either distracting armor, magic resistance, and they're slow. They're going to hold you up, but they're going to survive a lot of the time.
I mean, I think Bridge Troll with their distracting is still king pick there.
Same.
The magic resistance has gone to the forest troll rather than the cave troll. The cave troll used to have magic resistance and armor, and now the magic resistance part has been given to the forest troll.
Yeah,
I think that's fine. It just makes the cave troll less of an auto take, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And all different types of Strider as well. So as we were saying about mixing and matching Strider.
Yeah, and all cheaper. I know that like you've lost an attack, you've gained a resilience, but points wise, they are all cheaper than the old versions.
Significantly cheaper,
Yep.
Yeah, and I would say that's because of the advance massively as well, because you're not going to be able to get them to they're effectively.
But you don't have to babysit them anymore, though, as much.
Very true.
Discipline 6 is actually a lot better than Discipline 4.
Remember what we said earlier, though, about you can put a goblin character on a pet monster. Put them in there. BSB with a movements banner.
Yeah, true. Very true.
March 14 trolls.
So different role we're saying for these trolls, but not overly terrible.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Goblin artillery. So we've still got Skewerer, Splatterer, and Git Launcher.
So these have been squished all together into a single block. Goblin armies can have up to 6 war machines.
Mad.
Skewers are skewers. They're still bolt throw, same as before. The splatterers, same as before. Except, I mean, it's still catapults. D3 clip wings. The Git launcher has had a bit of a change around. So it used to just be you hit the unit and you did like D6
D3 plus 1.
D3 plus 1 hits. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now I don't know how this works, like from a lore perspective, but if you hit, you hit. If you don't hit, if you get a partial hit, then you drop a mad git within 3 inches because you're not throwing a parachuting like a gliding goblin anymore. You're launching a mad git.
He just lands on his feet. Drop and roll.
Which is like a Beyblade. Like a high velocity Beyblade. But yeah, so there's if you hit, I mean, you're doing 2d6 mad git hits as normal. If you get the partial, you can plonk the mad git.
Save the hits for later.
I love it.
And save the hits later. And so there's a part of me this is like, actually, I think I'd rather get the partial hit most of the time.
Yeah.
Because if you can plonk a mad git in front of a unit, like within 3 inches of the unit we're trying to hit, if they want to go through it, that's now 3d6.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's just awesome.
Love it.
There we go. You should say the Skewerer is 0-2 or 0-4 if you have a Derma. Splatterer is 0-2 or 0-3 if you have a Derma. Git Launcher is 0-1 or 0-2 if you have a Derma. So,
but every one Git Launcher you take, the Splatterer maximum is reduced. So there's a kind of like trade-off there. But I think you can work that out.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. But I like it. I like it. It's very flavorful for that. I just love it. You're actually lobbing a Git.
It just kind of gets the idea that the Goblin army is just this like lots of small little units, and like they're forever running away from charges and just frustrating an enemy that can't go anywhere while you're just dropping mad gits.
There's super shenanigans from this.
You have lost your Orc Overseer now, so I mean, I have a model that is specifically an Orc Overseer, so I'm a bit boo-hoo about that. But hey, I'll just stick him in my Orc unit.
Yeah, he's a BSB.
He's fine. Yeah, exactly. With his wooden leg, he's fine.
What an upgrade! He was just bigger than goblins before, and now he's at PSB. Nice. Giant. Moving on to that. 0-3 giants per model per army.
Check out the first option for the must choose.
Yep.
Come on, Leary Lucky Sixes, and then try and work out what does that mean. What does that mean for our earlier rules?
So, for the amateur that I am, if he goes in
with something else on your team,
then they get better stuff.
They get hatred for having a giant in with you.
So you have hatred against anything fighting a giant with beloved mascots because it's a giant dripping in grotlings.
Nice. Very nice.
So cool.
So
cool.
I mean, that's going to really help people, and that's like he becomes a mini buff wagon then.
Yeah. So I was running 2 during the playtest.
Yeah.
Giant See Giant Do gives the giant brood rivalry, so +1
as
attack.
well.
and the minimize breaks, which is
They wouldn't get
quite
+1
handy.
attack because it's a single model.
Sorry,
Neither
bring
unit
one.
again.
Yes, bring one.
Yeah.
So giving your other orcs
Other
+1 attack.
orcs, yeah.
Arms to the teeth kind of makes him like I would say mini Iron Orc. I mean, it's a giant, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
but
Gives
it
him
works
extra
on
equipment.
yeah. So basically, the giant sees your Iron Orcs using their weapons, and then gets to use the same. So
Doesn't have to use the one they choose though. They just have to be equipped with it. So you could choose great weapons on your Iron Orcs and then steal a paired weapon while they're not using it. So
yes, yeah. So the giant is reminded that it has multiple weapons from seeing the Iron Orcs doing their thing. And then
cool. Yeah, and then Giant Club is Giant Club +1 strength armor, and Big Brother is maximize stomps and health to 8. So yeah, I like it. I quite like that.
It's really cool.
Altercation to giants.
I think with all the wrecking team goodness, you're not missing the random move the giant anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
no, I mean,
you've got the models for it, Dan. Are you?
Yeah, the wrecking ball giants almost needed a refund.
Yeah, still good.
Moving on to bigger stuff in form of a Guardian Behemoth, which Gogyag Behemoth. This is I think probably a new addition to the Goblin.
It's
of sorts.
Fundamentally new. I don't know if I can't remember if we brought it up, but across this and the giant and the gargantua earlier, there was a 0 to 3 gigantic model limit.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just bear that in mind as you make your army. But yeah, the Guardian Behemoth is like Gargantula meets Build-A-Bear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So lots of options to it.
Yeah.
Essentially, is replacing the Gargantula in the
correct
army book as a non-character. So you have lost that, but you do have a normal Gargantula in the character section. But you have these very, very cool little, very cheaper. Gargantua
and one of the options you can take within this is the creepy crawlies, which effectively makes it a slightly dumbed down Gargantula.
Yes.
Because it
goes
starts off on
Sorry, go on back.
Well, yeah, so it starts off on a chariot base, like a 50 by 100. But yeah, you can buy 2 upgrades for it.
Yes,
like
and that's the Build-A-Bear. Reference.
So, I guess if we were trying to recreate the Gargantula of old, we would want to buy like creepy crawlies and Scar Carapace for a 4-up save and immense bulk for the bigger base size, more wounds, more goblins on top. We can't do that. We can only choose 2. So it's like a watered down Gargantula, which then leaves the character mount version as what we knew. But yeah, apart from +2 armor, the bigger base, more goblins, more wounds. You've got slithering frame, so 6-up fortitude and random movement, 3d6, and wicked horns for frenzy and impact hits, d6.
How does frenzy and random movement work?
I don't know.
I was good because does random movement take away the option to charge?
Yes.
Yeah, random movement you can't.
Frenzy, you would only have to overrun and stuff like that, right? You wouldn't have to then charge. So
we don't have to overrun with frenzy anymore.
Oh, don't you? Okay.
No.
So it's just for charging.
No.
So you could almost. I'm just looking at Slithering Frame and Wicked Horns as quite a good combo because you take away the negative side of frenzy.
I mean, it's a shame to lose the speed of the advance, but yeah, being able to in inverted commas charge sideways into a unit with random movement.
You do gain maximized restrained pursuit tests.
Okay.
With frenzy.
So you don't have to, but you're more likely to pursue.
The other thing I quite like about it is that the whole model is Goblin Cunning.
Yes.
Yeah, it can't flee, unfortunately, because it's fearless, which is something I will 100% remember in every game. But it does mean, when you war cry, suddenly these behemoths can gain light troops and can start zipping around.
So really interesting. And in terms of stat lines, strength 6, 6 attacks, 5 HP is base, but you can increase that obviously. And movement 7, 14. Yeah, I like these, and I think there's some really good combos out there. Even some that we might not see initially. So that's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly putting together 2 chariot-based behemoths because they're 0 to 1 normally, but goblins get 0 to 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%.
Should say as well, we've mentioned
those.
Gargantua quite a lot. I think you did say it earlier actually, but it is 50 by 100 or 100 by 150 if you get the immense bulk. So for people that did want to keep it on the old base and use the old model, you can still wish it.
Yeah.
It's good. I know we, especially on this channel, don't typically like base size changes. I might be the guiltiest for that. But if they've got the option, I dislike it less.
Probably choose immense bulk and creepy crawlies to keep its poison attacks,
sure.
Keep the base size, and then it's a 6-up save rather than a 4.
Yeah. And then Great Green Idol as the last of the, I think it's the last anyway. The last of the unit entries. So that 10 minutes went quick, didn't it? Great Green Idol, 400 points.
Unbreakable. Woo!
Unbreakable. Yeah, that's good.
Unbreakable.
Not even supernal either.
Yeah. So this, like the different army types, obviously we've been talking quite a lot about orcs and a lot about goblins. One of the intended army builds is a mixed army. So the Great Green Idol is the mascot of the Warborn list, which is the mix between the two. So you notice it's a 0 to 2 units per army, but if you have a Damu or tribe leader, then it drops to 0 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the Great Green Idol is the union of orcs and goblins. It can't be BSB anymore.
Nope.
No.
Makes me sad.
Yeah, that is sad.
But
still has the crush attack, still has 6 HP, which I think it did before, Res 8.
Yeah, no impact hits anymore.
No, and as you said, the Guile and Fury Hereditary from the Warborn Alliance is very nice. I quite like that. Is the Hereditary repeatable? This is thing. So
it's not.
Would you be able to cast that? You would only be able to attempt to cast it once.
So the interesting thing about it is that so the Great Green Idol can choose which version to cast. So if you happen to have a tribe leader orc army, which meant you might not be able to access the -1 to hit, -1 move goblin version, your GGI could cast that instead.
Sure.
But
if that got off, you wouldn't then be able to cast it again, would you?
Precisely, yeah. I mean, the GGI before used to have quite 2 very good special rules to help buff. But I feel like a lot of people forgot them. I certainly did.
And you're certainly not going to forget the new Green Tide rule, which is very, very good. Friendly units within 6 inches do not lose rank bonus due to being in line formation. That's so good. And the first of something negating the line formation rule.
Yeah, I think so. Interestingly, I've just read up on bound spells. Bound spells can be cast even if the same spell has already been cast earlier in the same magic phase.
Because VS players used to have lightning band braces and thaumaturgy.
So is it stackable then? It doesn't say max 1, so you could be +2 to hit if you get both.
Oh my lord!
and then rod a battle.
Don't let them know. Don't let them find us.
Cut that bit of the video quick. That's just between us 4.
I'll edit all the OP bits out, in which case it might be 10 minutes. But so that's really
fine. I lose an argument if you're going to say this is an OP book. The Lucky Sixes, you're outnumbered.
Oh, absolutely. No, I really like it. And that does end the thing.
I think this is a brilliant effort. I mean, it might be OP to high hell, but it's a really good book.
No, it's fine. Yeah. It's fine. To be fair, so I think Ryan and I can both test this. Like when we were playtesting it, there was the plan was that this lab was going to be, in inverted commas, underbaked during playtest, with the idea that the team wanted to be able to add stuff to the book that the book needed, rather than launch it out as this kind of doomsday device and then have to pull bits out of it to bring it back to Earth. So it's certainly nice seeing this having a bit of a glow up compared to the playtest version for sure. And I mean, this book's brought me back into the Goblin fold.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
You are going to see Orcs and Goblin players come out the woodwork that haven't before as well.
100%.
I think it's a really nice book. It's a really flavourful book. I think one of the best named books around in terms of namings for things.
Yeah.
Monster Munch, amazing.
Monster Munch. Yeah. So they've done. I think they've done a very, very good. There are some combos which I think will become pretty
Break
good.
the game.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, warriors are running away from this, right?
Yes. Yes, they are. But
Without maximise flee.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, they're both running away. Just the orcs are doing it on purpose. Or the goblins, rather. But no, yeah, very nice. I should say thanks very much for the playtesters and obviously PTG's own Goblin and Goblin fanatics, Gobbo and Skabfatt for coming on to this.
Thank you for having us.
No, not at all. And for everyone watching or listening or however you do it, thanks very much. Well done for lasting that whole 10 minutes. You've done very, very well. Give yourselves a big round of applause and a break. Thanks very much for joining us. Like, share, subscribe, put all the comments down, especially all the comments, because we want to see as much. Break this book to high hills and put it in our comments so that Hypersheet can bring out a nice list come the next tournament. Because that'd be so fun, and we always enjoy reading your comments as well. Let us know if we've got anything wrong, because when we skim through these, sometimes that happens. So let us know if there's any rules clarifications, and otherwise, how excited you are to play the new Orcs and Goblins book, because I know that we are.
Yeah, or against it in your case, Lucky Sixes.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Cheers, folks. And yeah, we'll see you very soon for more fun videos.
Catch you in a bit.
Cheers, guys.
See you later. Right, lovely.
2 o'clock.